Would you be the jerk for refusing to move out? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk for switching the speaker at work because I can't stand country music? Me, 20-year-old female, and my coworker, 21-year-old male, I'll call him Jay, got into an argument this morning. We work at a place with a speaker. I don't want to be specific. The employees connect to it and play our own playlists as long as they're clean. An issue this summer is a different coworker will play nothing but country for 5+ hours straight. Unfortunately, Jay has also recently started playing nothing but country, even though I've literally never heard him play country or even talk about liking it. The country music has gotten to the point that one of our managers has said in the work group chat to not play only country for a whole shift. It's fine to play a country song every now and then, just not the whole time. Unfortunately, they both still do. This morning, when Jay connects to the speaker, he starts playing country, and I give it like 30-ish minutes for a non-country song to play. It was only country, so I decide to just add enough stuff to the queue that I'll be off before I have to hear another country song. Luckily, the jam popped up, so I started adding songs. Older songs and 2000s pop music. When my song started playing, he turned off his jam. So I connected to the speaker, multiple people can be on it at once, and tried playing my music, and he kept pausing it, and it was like this for a while, to the point other people told us to cut it out, and he gave up at that point and let me have the speaker. I did kind of laugh when it was happening because I guess I wanted to convey that I wasn't upset and I was trying to be lighthearted, but maybe he took offense to that? When it was happening, here's my best recollection of the convo. Jay said, "Give me a good reason that I can't play country." I said, "I'm not listening to nothing but country." They reply, "No, give me an actual good reason why you don't like it and I can't play it." I said, "Okay, fine. You want an actual good reason why we shouldn't play country music? What if I played classical music? Country is for a specific group of people and it isn't what the majority of people like." Jay replied, "Plenty of people like country. Also, country pop exists." I said no, because the majority of people know and listen to pop music, so we should just play that. Also, your manager, your boss, said not to play nothing but country, and that should be enough of a reason. Jay said it wasn't only country music, and I replied the playlist was called country music, so yes, it was only country music. He wasn't yelling at me, but he was pretty upset. Did I make it a bigger deal than it needed to be? Country music makes me feel homicidal, and at first I thought it was funny, but I guess he didn't. But I've had some of my favorite songs skipped or have even been booted from the speaker before, and I've never made a fuss. Yeah, OP's not the jerk here. The boss literally said, don't play only country. Like, realistically, what is this guy doing? Slipping a few recent Post Malone songs in there, which are clearly country. And let me be clear, Post Malone is one of my favorite artists, but like trying to hand wave that off as if they're playing some pop anthem that resets the country music cool down that follows. Ex-Ohio guy commented, "As a longtime manager, this is the kind of thing that drives me crazy. You try to let your team have some simple autonomy, and one person has to be a difficult jerk. Now they have to have rules about what music genre everyone listens to? What the freak, not the jerk." Live Kindly 01 commented, "Exactly. This is why people hate government." I know, new topic. Because overall, we just want people to do the right thing and get along and share, etc. But no, everyone is greedy or a jerk, so that's why all these rules are made and red tape created, because people are jerks who can't solve sandbox arguments on their own. So managers or government have to step in and say, okay, new rule. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy getting to decide whether or not all of these people are jerks, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to be my mom's only caretaker when my sister is paid to help? For as long as I, 25-year-old female, can remember, I've been by my mom's 64-year-old female side. I've always handled her paperwork, tech issues, cooking, cleaning, you name it. When she was diagnosed with cancer, I took on even more. I scheduled her appointments, arranged transportation, went with her to every one, and helped her through treatment. Meanwhile, my sister, 28-year-old female, was hired to take care of our mom, but nothing changed. She stays in her room gaming all day and doesn't help around the house or with our mom. Everything practical, emotional, and logistical still falls on me. I began visiting my oldest sister, 38-year-old female, who moved out years ago due to our mom's emotional and mental abuse. She's a narcissist. Talking with my older sister made me realize how much pressure I've been under and that I may need therapy. While I was away, my mom constantly called me for help with things I couldn't fix remotely. I kept telling her to ask my sister, who was home with her and gets paid to help, but she refused every time. I eventually got so upset that I hung up mid-call. When I got home a few days later, I was exhausted from traveling. I ate, put my dish in the sink, and went to bed. At around 3 a.m., my mom came into my room, walked right past my sister, who had been gaming all day, and told me to do the dishes and take out the trash. The sink was already full of dishes, and the trash was overflowing, not just mine. The next day, I told them that I would be gone for another 3 days to visit some friends. Before I left, I gave my sister all the passwords and clear instructions for apps, medical portals, and essential websites so she could help our mom while I was gone. On the first day away, my mom called to ask when her next appointment was and whether transportation had been scheduled. I asked her where my sister was and reminded her that she is the one being paid to help and has all the information. Again, she refused to ask her. I helped, but after that, I turned off my phone for the rest of the trip. When I got home and finally woke up, I was still groggy and just trying to use the bathroom. While I was literally on the toilet, my mom walked in and started rattling off a date and time for an appointment she wanted transportation scheduled for. I got irritated and said, "Where is your other employee? I physically cannot help you right now. I am on the toilet." Honestly, I was frustrated. I'm burned out. That's why I've been trying to leave the house more, because staying here is draining my already freaked mental health. I've tried to set boundaries, but they're ignored. I've given my sister all the tools she needs to help, but she refuses to learn, and my mom will not go to anyone but me, even when I'm physically unavailable. It makes me wonder what will happen when my own life starts moving forward and I simply cannot be here all the time. So, am I the jerk for trying to step back, set boundaries, and expect my sister to finally do the job she's being paid for? Update, I can't just up and go, but this thread so far has given me insight, hope, and great advice that I'll be taking to hurry up and get the freak out of here as soon as I can. Thank you all. So, I think OP's not the jerk. I think realistically the only thing stopping them is themselves at this point. Obviously, move out and leave isn't just an easy thing to up and do, but I think it's just obvious that OP has to do a good job of focusing on making themselves the absolute priority. Remote Passenger 7880 commented, "I say this with love, boundaries without enforcement are just requests, and requests can be denied. There's no trying, you either do or you don't put boundaries in place. Just don't do these things. Put all of your money and energy into moving out. Stop answering phone calls from your mom, leave texts demanding help unread. Just don't give in to the demands. You can't control what either of them do, but you can control what you do, not the jerk." Our next story is, am I the jerk for letting my daughter flaunt her expensive items? I, 50-year-old female, and my husband, 48-year-old male, have a daughter, Danica, 21-year-old female, who has been extremely independent her whole life. Danica began working when she was 15, and now she works part-time for a large corporation while pursuing her studies. We are extremely proud of her and how hard she's worked. We generally allow her to manage her own finances, and she insists on contributing monthly to the family expenses with the money she earns. Danica occasionally likes to make pricier purchases, which I don't have any concern over, as I think they are sensible financial choices. Like last year, she decided to purchase the newest MacBook as her old laptop was on its last leg, and she wanted something reliable and long-lasting, or when she bought a Marc Jacobs bag for work and university. We recently went on a family trip with my brother and his family, who have 2 kids of their own, Tammy, 20-year-old female, and Nick, 23-year-old male. His kids and Danica aren't exactly close, but they get along fine for the most part. I know that Tammy and Nick do not have any source of income besides my brother and have not worked a day in their life. During the trip, Danica would occasionally pay for the 3 of them for small things like drinks or food. When we were shopping, Danica bought a few items for herself and picked up gifts she wanted to bring back to her friends. During dinner that night, my sister-in-law, brother's wife, told my husband and me that we were spoiling Danica too much with her purchases. We explained that Danica earned her own money and every cent came from her job. Sister-in-law then proceeded to point and tell Danica that if that was the case, she shouldn't be flaunting her purchases and items in front of her cousins who don't have a cushy little office job and parents who spoiled her into the person she is. Danica apologized politely, saying that she didn't mean to flaunt her things, but I could tell that she was upset and embarrassed. My husband stood up and shot back, saying that Danica shouldn't have to apologize for her own hard work. I also pointed out that Danica has been financially independent since she was 15 and that we've always done our best not to spoil her. Sister-in-law then proceeded to tell us that we weren't teaching her how to manage her finances correctly and that all this money had turned her into a little brat. Danica excused herself to the bathroom and texted that she had gone back to the hotel. We had a tense back and forth for the rest of dinner, and we came back to finding Danica crying in her hotel room. I called my brother, hoping that he's able to talk to his wife, but he explained that for the past few days, Tammy had been crying to her parents about not having what Danica had. She had been whining to her mom that she wanted the newest MacBook as well, but she refused to get it for her. Myself, Danica, and my husband have been getting calls from the rest of the family, some calling us jerks, and some who were willing to hear us out and understand where we were coming from. So, am I the jerk? OP's 1,000,000% not the jerk, and honestly, if I didn't know any better, it almost sounds like they're trying to extort OP emotionally into buying that kid a MacBook. You spoil your daughter so much, you really shouldn't be doing all of this in front of our kid who can't afford and have all that stuff. You know, she was really telling us about how she wanted the newest MacBook, but there's just no way we could ever get it for her. Hello all, goodbye all commented. So 2 grown adults complained to their parents about what a third grown adult has bought with their own money? Do they not realize how pathetic that sounds? Not the jerk, your daughter has done nothing wrong. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my in-laws to get a job? I've been stressed out lately, and I think I blew up on them and was unnecessarily rude, now that I'm calming down enough to think about it. Me and my husband both work. We have a 3-year-old. He works at an office job while I work from home, being a stay-at-home mom. So I keep the house together, cook dinner, and work while keeping my toddler entertained. It's tough, but we're doing it and have a system. My job is flexible, and as long as I get tasks done at the end of the week, they're happy. Some days I don't get to work all day and have to work into the night. Life got tough and I began to get behind on tasks, so we agreed to try out daycare once a week so that can be my one full work day without being a mom or focusing on the house. Anyways, my in-laws keep making comments about it that upset me. When I first mentioned it, they were shocked and said that we're spending a lot of money just for something I can do. After a few months, they started making comments like, "Oh, it's your break day," or "You get to relax today." My 2 sister-in-laws are stay-at-home moms, and I just can't find myself relating with them. They talk often about how they get to nap during the day and how they do play dates and drink wine with other moms. They talk about all these shows they watch or TikTok trends. I don't ever have time for those unless I stay up after bedtime, but I'm usually too exhausted for that. I don't judge their lifestyle. In fact, I'm happy that they're able to do this and hope that once my husband finishes his schooling and we get to a good financial position, I can live like that too. I usually can ignore them, but last night we were over at a family gathering. My mother-in-law and 2 sister-in-laws were talking, and they mentioned how today would be my break day again. I laughed awkwardly and tried to change the subject, but my sister-in-law kept exclaiming that I'm so lucky and that she's envious that I get a break just to relax. I tried to mention that it's not much of a break with working, but my other in-laws chimed in and were talking about how they wish they could just leave their kids without a care. I don't know what happened, but I snapped. I stood up, told them that they should get a job to see how hard it really is, and walked away. My husband quickly packed us all up and we left. We agree that I overreacted, but I just wanted to see what other people think. I think I should apologize to them. Edit to add, my husband does just as much as I do, if not more. I get more sleep than he does. We're just trying not to get any debt and are investing in our future right now. I didn't mean to make it sound like he's slacking. Yeah, OP's definitely not the jerk here. Maybe OP's reaction was a little strong, but honestly, I think it's actually a pretty justified kind of, I guess you can say, crash out moment. I mean, they're talking crap about you and being like, yeah, oh, OP gets this day off and they can just ignore their kid and sleep all day. It's not the case. OP's literally working all day. No thanks, 8790 commented, not the jerk except to yourself. You're not a stay-at-home mom if you're working. Get your husband to step up and do his share and stop following whatever crap you guys are listening to that says that women should take care of the house. If he uses a bathroom or a dish, he can clean it too. Specific Culture 591 commented, agreed. OP needs to stop calling herself a stay-at-home mom too. She isn't. She's a work-from-home mom. The husband's family is acting like OP isn't working a regular job, and that notion needed to be nipped in the bud a long time ago. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my mom I won't be home for Christmas? My 25-year-old female boyfriend, 28-year-old male, invited me to Italy, his home country, for Christmas to spend with his family. I know Christmas and Thanksgiving are important to my mother, so I called her in early June to give her a heads up that I won't be in town on Christmas Day, but I would love to spend time with her beforehand and during Thanksgiving. I told her she was on speakerphone in front of my boyfriend. She jokingly said, well, why don't you break up with your boyfriend before Christmas and then get back together after Christmas? My boyfriend heard that and was hurt. They have not yet met before. Ever since then, she's been mean to me on phone calls and refuses to make plans with me. Her birthday's coming up and I offered to take her to her favorite theme park, but she was rude and passive-aggressive. She says she won't know her schedule. When I ask her why I feel that she's being mean to me, she says, well, this is how I feel. I'm upset. You won't be coming home for Christmas. You don't care about this family. You are abandoning this family. Everyone is upset. I offer to try and make plans for Thanksgiving and say that I would love to cook for everyone and host or cook at her house if she's more comfortable. She keeps saying she doesn't know her schedule and can't make plans. I'm tired of trying to make an effort and just being fed back rudeness. I want to give up on planning Thanksgiving and basically say, since she refuses to make plans with me, I will make plans otherwise. Thoughts? I mean, yeah, OP's not the jerk. You can't say, you don't care about this family, you are abandoning this family, and then continue to block any attempt at trying to be with the family. Who's the one really abandoning the other here? OP said, I want to be there with you, I want to spend Thanksgiving with you. And she's the one turning around saying, nah, I don't really know my schedule. You don't know your schedule? Thanksgiving is a set day. How would you not know your schedule? Anareth Skell commented, not the jerk. My aunt pulled this crap when my cousin spent Christmas with her fiance's family, sent guilt-trippy texts like, guess I'll eat alone with the dog. Then she didn't. Cousin came back from the trip to find her posting on pics from a Cancun timeshare she'd booked months prior. Some parents just love the drama. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not taking days off when my mother-in-law is staying over? We moved into our home last February, and my mother-in-law has basically been living with us. When my son was in school, she would stay every other weekend and any weeks he would have off. Now that he's on summer break, she stays every other week. My father-in-law passed away last December, so I understand that she may not want to be alone, but it's starting to get a bit much. I get along with my mother-in-law. She helps out with the kids when she stays, and we take her with us on occasional family trips. Anyways, I told my wife that I would only take days off on the days her mom is not staying. My reason is simple. I rather spend my limited time off with just her and the kids, not her mom. When her mom's staying, I wind up having to spend the entire day doing what she wants. Last time, I wound up spending half the day at the mall just so she could browse. I brought this up to my wife and I flat out told her that it's not worth taking days off when she's there because I can't enjoy them. Am I the jerk? I mean, I'm going to be honest, I think one of the most magical things of taking a day off is being able to kind of do what you want to do. Obviously, you can't necessarily do that all the time if you have a family of your own to take care of, but I get where OP's coming from. What they want to do on their day off is spend time with their immediate family, and not playing along with mother-in-law's perfect day off. Oopnorf commented, you're not the jerk, that all sounds perfectly reasonable. Has anyone actually objected to this? There would be a genuine question if your mother-in-law was coming for a rare visit and you were boycotting the whole thing, though even then I think there would be a case for you not being the jerk, but when she's over alternate weeks, it isn't that and there's no problem at all. I think the only question I would have is a practical one, not an ethical one, and that's whether you can take some time off while your mother-in-law is over and not spend it with her. Stick her with the childcare and have some one-on-one time with your wife. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my sister that her lack of personal hygiene is the real reason no job will hire her and not sexism? This concerns my sister Lily, who's graduating soon. Our parents taught us the importance of personal hygiene and keeping yourself presentable, but I guess Lily fell off the wagon while dorming in college because it feels like she dropped everything to do with personal hygiene since moving back home. It's easier to explain with a list of things she isn't taking care of. Hair, very oily and greasy and always tangled from lack of wash and brushing. Skin, also very oily and greasy from no wash. Nails, never trimmed so they're long and yellow from grime. Clothes, the clothes themselves are nice, but she leaves them sloppy or wrinkled. Body, showers once a week tops. I'm not sensitive to smell, but my sister reeks and honestly makes me gag sometimes. Lily's upset because she says she can't get an in-person job in her field and wants to give up. Our parents have tried telling her that presentability and hygiene is as important as credentials when getting jobs, but my sister won't listen. Lily has a rocky relationship with our family, so she takes it as a personal attack rather than them trying to help. Lily's now blaming sexism and says men are all just intimidated by a competent woman, and that's the sole reason why she hasn't gotten a job. If she wants to lie to herself, it's her life, whatever. What I can't stand is her trying to make it my problem and expect validation from me. Lily just did a bunch of interviews, but all went cold after and none panned out into jobs. She was venting to me last week about how companies in this field are all boys' clubs and quick to shoot down a woman they know is intellectually above them. I was basically just like, good for you, can I please finish my session in peace now? Lily got defensive and said she's just warning me, then doubled down saying most men are selfish and I should save myself the headache now. She was saying this with my male friends on the voice call. I had enough and told Lily that her lack of personal hygiene is the real reason no job will hire her, so stop blaming others and think for 2 seconds. If you were a company owner who needs to impress investors to keep your own family afloat, would you want to be represented by someone who looks and smells like a homeless person or someone who is presentable and takes care of themselves? We got into an argument and Lily's now either giving me one-word answers or not saying anything to me at all. I'll be honest that we argue a lot, but Lily would normally have gotten over it by now. Did I do the right thing by giving Lily a dose of reality, or did I freak up here? Maybe you could argue that OP was a little too blunt or too harsh, but OP was just saying it how it is. And especially not in that blowhard, I'm just saying it like it is kind of way that, morons use as an excuse. I mean, you could almost say that what OP said was actually said in good intentions, just trying to be honest. Just, in a frustrated moment. Sleepy Hedgehog 99 commented, "Not the jerk, but I would be concerned about why Lily has let herself get to that point. Speaking from experience, keeping up with personal hygiene was really difficult when I was struggling with depression, but I still made an effort to look presentable when I had to go out. I don't know if that's what your sister is going through, but it might be worth looking into. That said, she also needs to learn how to self-reflect and hold herself accountable instead of blaming other people for her failures and projecting her personal experiences onto you. You did the right thing by pointing it out to her. Hopefully it'll serve as a wake-up call." Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling some kids to behave at the pool? Yesterday, I went to the community pool. The shallow end is roped off for children. The deep end is usually for lane swimming, but they don't have the actual lane ropes. Yesterday, there were a ton of children in the shallow part, some of them over the rope. I started lap swimming, but a mom started teaching one of her teens to swim in the deep end and going perpendicular to me, so I adjusted course and started going in their direction to avoid collision. Another child, one of hers, based on their interactions, started swimming in a box shape in the middle deep end instead of doing laps, which I found annoying but just avoided her. Then a father threw a ball into the deep end from the shallow part and started chasing after it with his kid, nearly crashing into me. I've been going back and forth in a very predictable trajectory. Once that happened, the game of Marco Polo from the shallow end started bleeding out and some older kids started playing out on the deep end. Soon, the deep end is a mess with kids and parents playing around and it's getting hard to swim laps. I pulled to the edge of the pool to take a breather and assess the situation. Then, some of the kids started jumping in the water right next to my head. The lifeguards are of course teenagers too, and were joking and playing around with the kids and laughing at the jumping instead of stopping it. I finally got really fed up and loudly told the lifeguard to do his job and tell the kids to not jump in the pool, especially so close to other people. The parents stopped to see what was going on, and I told them to watch their children and teach them to respect other people's space. The mom started going off about how it's a community pool, and who the freak do I think I am to tell them where to go, blah blah. I didn't want to start anything, so I just said, look, I'm just saying some common courtesy would be good for everyone's safety. I'm not interested in an argument. I said what needed to be said and swam off. Nobody apologized. Everyone just ignored me and kept on as they were. I tried doing more laps but ended up feeling uncomfortable and went home. Got weird looks on the way out. Am I in the wrong here and have no chill? Or am I justified and these people have no manners? Edit, I come every weekday and usually the kids stay in the shallow end and adult swim laps in the deeper end. This is the first time I've seen it get this chaotic. There are no other affordable pool options around. I pay a membership for this pool, but it's cheap at $35 a season. The only other options within a 20-minute drive are in luxury hotels and yacht clubs that charge hundreds a month. So part of me does get where OP's coming from, like they want to just have their pool time, they want to get their exercise in, they just want to be able to do what they need to do and enjoy their time doing it. Problem is, it seems like everybody else in this place has a different expectation of what was currently going on in that moment. The lifeguards, the parents, the kids, everybody there were all kind of seemingly on the same page. That kind of leads me to believe that OP is the odd person out. JDMac87 commented, I'm going to go with You're the Jerk because this sounds like it was a public swim time, not a lap swim time. If the lane ropes weren't in place and the shallow and deep ends were split, that sounds like standard public swim marking at every pool I've been to. It's to mark out shallow and deep, not lane swim versus public swim. Every pool I've ever lane swam at, probably around 10 at this point, does not divide the shallow and deep end for lane swimming. They mark out lanes that go from shallow end to deep end. If you want to try and lane swim at a public swim time, keep your head up, swim around others, and prepare to get splashed and fend off the odd rubber ball that goes astray. Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to move out so that my roommate's boyfriend can move in? My roommate and I split our lease 50-50 and currently month to month as we've been living here for about a year and a half. Last week, she sat me down and told me that her and her boyfriend wanted to take the next step and move in together. As she was telling me about it, she told me I need to leave and find a new place to live. I'm refusing to leave as I believe that the person who wants change is the person that should facilitate that, and that I shouldn't have to uproot my life by finding a new place as well as spending the money to move in order to make that happen for her. She says she's entitled to stay because she made a garden in the backyard and does the majority of the yard work. Also, most of the furniture is hers. These are things I have taken into consideration, but ultimately decided I want to stay. I also made it clear that I was okay with her staying and her boyfriend moving in since she already has the master bedroom, but they want to live alone without a roommate. Ultimately, it comes down to the landlord and the lease agreement. I think OP's not the jerk if they like the place they're at and want to stay, but I do think it comes with the understandable caveat that they're going to be upset and there's probably going to be drama. Solid Feature 7678 commented, contact your landlord and update them on the ongoing situation so that your roommate can't submit a 30-day notice in your name behind your back. Our next story is, am I the jerk for getting angry when my husband constantly interrupts me and tells me I overreact? There are little things that drive all of us crazy. For me, it's being interrupted mid-sentence, especially when it's not for anything urgent, just because the person got distracted or felt like switching topics. I find it incredibly disrespectful when someone cuts me off without letting me finish, and then doesn't even circle back to what I was saying. It makes me feel like what I say doesn't matter and that they weren't really listening in the first place. One thing I particularly hate is when someone answers the phone right in the middle of me talking. No sorry, no just a moment, nothing. Just picking up the call as if I wasn't even there. My husband knows this bothers me. I've told him many times, every time it happens, yet he keeps doing it over and over. He'll interrupt me to make a call, to comment on something completely unrelated, and never comes back to the conversation I was trying to have. When I call him out, especially after the umpteenth time, I'm admittedly frustrated. I raise my voice, I say I'm tired of not being listened to, and that's when he turns it around on me. He says I'm hysterical, that I always overreact, that I need to learn to calm down and control myself. But I feel like I do control myself most of the time. I've made so many efforts over the years to adapt to him, to not upset him, to be considerate. Yet I feel like that consideration is never reciprocated, and when I finally get upset after being ignored, dismissed, or talked over, I'm the one who's too much. So, am I the jerk for getting angry when he interrupts me again and again, even though I've calmly told him for years how much it hurts me? Yeah, OP's not the jerk here. I'm gonna admit, in conversations, sometimes I can be a little ADHD forward and I'll blurt out something or cut somebody off or try to finish their sentence, but I do my best to make it an effort to always catch myself, say, sorry, please finish what you were saying. I would hate to be that person who just rambles and dominates conversations and cuts people off and never gets back around to the thought they had. I am 100% that person in conversations where another person does that to someone else. After they finish their new ramble, I will go back to that first person and ask them to finish their thought. Or if I do interject, I'll keep that original thread in my mind and make sure to bring it back up after. Jonesy P98 commented, "Not the jerk. I see he's playing jerk bingo. Hysterical, check. Calm down, check. Next time, just continue talking. Ignore what he's saying to me. Just keep going, even if he takes a call. Or start talking over him. Tell him he doesn't mind doing it to you, so why is he getting hysterical about it?" Our next story is, am I the jerk for not allowing Airbnb guests to use my patio? I bought a flat as an immigrant a few years ago in a bad reputation street of a bad reputation city in a bad reputation country in Europe. I won't say that it was just luck, but the country became an attractive country to visit, the city developed a lot, and my street, being in the center, became very attractive to visitors. Now my street has been fully renovated, and so has the facade of my building, because we got public funds for that, but the inside is still pre-war gray because we're fine with it. My flat is the only one that opens to the courtyard, and after speaking to the neighbors, they were all enthusiastic for me to turn my corner of the courtyard into something pretty on whichever way I felt. In these kinds of buildings, it's defined how much each apartment owns of the land, but not delimited. So I own, let's say, 5% of the land. Usually, I would use it for a parking space, but it's not like you have a delimited parking space, and since I don't drive, I asked the neighbors if I could take the corner next to my door as mine. This was a no parking space, and everyone enthusiastically agreed to let me make a mini garden/patio. After the city and the street blew up with tourism, someone did some legal trickery to buy the flats on top of mine that were supposed to be saved for low-income people and turned them into an Airbnb. We're not happy about it for many reasons, starting with those flats were supposed to be for actual low-income people. But to the actual conflict, I let my neighbors use my patio, but I've been kicking Airbnb guests out of it. Apparently, the Airbnb host posts pictures of my little corner of the courtyard as a public space. I don't think it's a public space since I own part of the land and the Airbnb owner does not, and it's been accepted that this is my portion of the land. Now the Airbnb owner is saying that he'll sue me for discrimination since I share my little patio with the other neighbors, but I don't allow the tourists in it and has had some negative reviews. I'm absolutely safe legally, but morally, am I the jerk for not allowing tourists in my space when I let neighbors use it? So realistically, I think what matters most is the legality of it. It's OP space, right? So do they not have an intrinsic right of refusal to whoever they want going on that property? I mean, sure, it sucks for the guy who's trying to use it as a marketing tool to sell more Airbnb spots, but there's only one person to blame in that scenario. Conflict Gullible 392 commented, "It's your private patio, not public space. You can invite whoever you want to use it or not. The Airbnb owner is a jerk for advertising space that doesn't belong to them. I feel bad for the tourists, but that's on the host. They deserve the bad reviews, not the jerk." OP responded commenting, "It is half. It's not a public space because it's an inner courtyard of a building, but it's not legally delimited who's the actual owner of every square meter of the courtyard. We never needed to do that and always managed ourselves. When I bought my apartment and told the guy who was parking his second car in what is now my patio, he was cool with taking the second car somewhere else, and we never had to fight over who has a right over which particular spaces. But I also don't have a fence around my patio because I let the neighbors use it, or it's written legally anywhere that those particular square meters belong to me." Our next story is, am I the jerk for not getting rid of my cat? I, 41-year-old female, have been dating a guy, 46-year-old male, for several years. Last year, we took a break for about 6 months. In that time, I didn't date anyone else. He did, but was working with someone who showed unreciprocated interest in me. This coworker was moving to another state and asked if I wanted to adopt his cat for my kids, and I jumped at the chance. We had always wanted a cat, and it just seemed like a great opportunity. I lost contact with his coworker pretty quickly after he moved. My relationship with my boyfriend is really great, but recently he told me he hates the cat because it came from a guy who was using it to try and sleep with me. He said he didn't even want to feed the cat when I'm gone, as it just reminds him of this other guy. It's just a cat, and I literally never think of the coworker who gave him to me. I told him I would never get rid of the cat to make him feel comfortable, not just because of the cat, but because I won't be in a relationship where I have to prove my love by unnecessary sacrifice or pain. He said that I'm choosing a cat over him. Am I the jerk for thinking this whole thing is stupid and weirdly childish? Update: I didn't know Reddit was the friend group I needed, yet here we are. Yeah, he's gone. It didn't go well, but everyone was right. He was genuinely kind and normal for the most part. I think he's just good at the masking. But in hindsight, there were some red flags of slowly escalating controlling behavior. This kind of yanked the wool off my eyes. He's incredulous that I would break up over a cat and then try to gaslight me by saying, "I cannot believe you actually think I wouldn't feed your cat." I was maybe being a little hyperbolic. I had a few drinks the other night. Do you think I'm a monster? And so on. Then it turned to how controlling it was, and he laughed at me like I'm being dramatic. Mean laughter. I've never heard him do that before. It went around and around. He was very intentionally pretending to not understand and was changing the subject a lot. I told him I'm done. I'll pack up whatever crap you have at my house and drop it at your work. I guess I'm feeling relieved that I found out before I let him further into my life. It still sucks. I'm good at being single, so life moves on. Also, he's a completely inside cat, and I've changed the code on my door locks. We're safe. I agree wholeheartedly with where this kind of ended up. The bottom line is, this guy is way too darn old to be putting on that display of, well, I can't get over this cat because it's tied to some other theoretical guy that never had a shot to begin with. Every time I look at that cat, I just think of you swooning fondly over your ex-coworker who you never even went on a date with. Like Embarrassed Kale 744 commented, read the part back to yourself where the 46-year-old man can't make himself feed a cat because the previous owner may have wanted to sleep with you. Read it over and over until it really hits you how childish, manipulative, and absurd it is. Then realize how twisted it is to refuse an animal food because of it, and convince yourself to love yourself more than putting up with this. Our next story is, am I the jerk for giggling at a family's problems during an HOA meeting? This happened this past Sunday. My dad and stepmom are out on a small trip, and I'm pet-sitting their cat and staying at their apartment while they're out. My dad asked me to attend the HOA, not sure how to call it. We live in Mexico and we don't have an HOA in the US sense. Meeting, due to some points about renovations and other important issues would be touched upon. During the meeting, there was an open mic moment to discuss other matters in a more neutral way. One of the neighbors, a woman that we'll call Carol, raised a concern about the ongoing issue with the gang that's been terrorizing the complex for a while now, and how nothing bad had been done to stop this. The gang in question? A group of kids between 6 to 10 years old. Their clear gang activities? Talking about games in the elevator or corridors, playing in the main plaza after school, going from Tower A to B to pick some of the other kids up, or getting toys out to go play. I know some of them. They sometimes come to the apartment asking for band-aids or get one of my nephews to go play with them. Really good kids in my opinion. Most outrageous thing they've done was hit a garden light with a ball and breaking it, which they took full accountability for and told management as soon as it happened. According to Carol, the kids are an issue and they make her feel highly uncomfortable because she can tell all of them are up to no good. Her daughter, a mid-teens, added that she feels so insecure when she's home alone because more than once, the kids have come up to her door and tried the door handle, banged on it, and that they've even tried picking the lock. Mind you, her apartment is across from my dad's, and the kids only knocked on his twice a week when my nephew's there, and that she also felt unsafe walking anywhere near the plaza because she felt perved on by, again, a bunch of kids between 6 to 10 years old. The husband was also very mad because according to him, he's seen them running around the underground parking lot and I quote, keying cars and trying to open them, probably to steal the kara or whatever is inside, which cannot be true because all minors need to be accompanied by an adult or a security guard to access the parking area to avoid any accident. I couldn't help it and snorted and then giggled when Mr. Dad added the whole bit about kids trying to steal cars, because as we all know, kids are into that kind of stuff. Carol began asking what was so funny and why I thought that gang activity was funny when I could be the next one to be attacked. I probably messed up by telling her that I doubt a bunch of kids who look for anthills to kick are crime masterminds, which of course got a couple of giggles from other neighbors. Carol's now mad at me and my dad for raising someone who supports gangs. My dad doesn't give a crap because he hates Carol, and my stepmom is also mad at me for not taking this seriously. In some way, somehow, am I the jerk? I'm willing to have the benefit of the doubt that OP is a little bit more on the correct side of things and that OP's pretty much witnessed all these kids do. That said, cards on the table, it wouldn't shock me if these 6 to 10-year-olds went a little bit more rogue than you would expect sometimes and maybe did sneak into the car park, maybe did try the handles on the cars. That said, I still think Carol's in the wrong, and especially so when they start saying like, oh, I'm feeling so perved on by these very young children. If they're so young that there's still a decent chance that decrepit old Carol can still pick them up, she shouldn't be going around trying to make those kinds of accusations. Extension Manager 41 commented, "Not the jerk. I also live in Mexico and some of my neighbors are also entitled lunatics. Children existing in Carol's vicinity shouldn't be maligned this way. Mexico takes slander laws pretty seriously. Perhaps Carol should shut her yap before she runs afoul of the law." OP responded, "And believe me, Carol is the smallest issue in the complex. There's a way worse neighbors and all of them live in Tower A. Also, I didn't know about the slander laws. I'll look into it just in case, especially because I sometimes chaperone the kids, so better make sure I know the facts just in case." Our next story is, am I the jerk for taking back the dress my sister stole from me? My older sister has bought a lot of things for me in the past and has given me some of her clothes as well. I've used her stuff too, but I've asked before using it or I always put it back. She lost her job, her car, and has financial issues now because her husband is an addict. In May, I bought myself a dress for my grandmother's funeral and only wore it once. I left the dress in my mom's closet, and a few weeks ago, my mom calls me saying that my sister took, although in my opinion I call it stealing, the dress, and asked my mom not to tell me because she wants it for herself. I was so ticked and went off on my mom. It's not the first time my sister's taken something of mine without asking, and the fact that my mom even allowed it riled me up even further. I went to go get the dress back and saw that the belt on the dress was missing. I asked her about it, and she claims that the belt wasn't there to begin with, but I know for a fact that I left the belt on it. I came home, threw the dress on the bed, and told my mom, "Now the belt's missing because you gave away my clothes behind my back. Thanks a lot, Mom." Then left. My mom says my sister feels touched by how I reacted because she's done and given so much for me in the past, and this is how I repay her. My mom also said that I should be more sympathetic towards my sister because she isn't in a position to buy herself new clothes due to her financial situation. Am I the jerk? I think OP's not the jerk. Just because there's goodwill and things given in the past doesn't just mean that you get a freebie once in a while when you want to steal something of somebody else's. Just because you bought your siblings Christmas presents every year unprompted doesn't mean that one year you get to just get away with stealing one of theirs randomly. It's not some bankable karma you can make a withdrawal from. Icy Philosopher 7072 commented, "Not the jerk. Your sister went so far as to tell your mom not to tell you because she wanted it for herself. That's stealing. I'm sure had she just asked you to borrow it, you probably would have let her. You had every right to go and take back your property that someone took from you. It doesn't matter if you were never going to wear it again or not, it's your property." This next story is, am I the jerk for not inviting a stranger our pastor told us to invite over for Christmas Eve with just my husband and I? So this is a throwback, and the people involved besides my husband are no longer part of my life at all. But therapy is weird, and while working through something else entirely, the memory of the situation popped out from wherever it was laying dormant in my brain and hasn't gone away since, so I shall ask you, oh dear citizens of Reddit, am I the jerk here, or was the pastor out of pocket? Let me set the scene. It's Christmas Eve, early 2000s, it's below freezing outside and snow is lightly blowing around. My husband and I are alone, but we'll be going to visit family the next day. We used to have our celebration on Christmas Eve, just us, and then go to the big family event the next day. There was a guy our pastor was helping out, around 20 years old. My spouse and I were early 20s as well. The only thing the pastor knew for certain about us was that we didn't have kids and we didn't have plans for Christmas Eve that involved other people. Or maybe he didn't know the second part and just assumed? Unclear. Anyway, Hubs and I went out for our annual Chinese food meal and to hang out looking at Christmas lights and then planned to watch a movie or something at home. While out at dinner, husband got a call from our pastor telling him that he had sent the guy we didn't know, we'll call him Brian, to our house because we weren't doing anything and thought we should be kind and share our Christmas Eve with the man. Let me be so clear that this was never discussed prior. Well, he sent the guy to our house on a dang bicycle in freezing temperatures and was irate when we didn't leave our food to go visit with Brian. We were lectured about Christian love and how we were not being good Christians by not inviting Brian along. What? So we eventually go home, Brian's on our couch, presumably he was told to just go in. We lived way out in the country so the doors weren't locked. I'm shaking with anger. I tersely said goodnight and went to bed because I was not dealing with a relative stranger when my little introverted heart had been promised one night of peace out of the week of chaos. All of this was reported back to the pastor by Brian, who was so hurt and put out by us not being there when he arrived. I thought nothing of it, honestly, until months later, I asked the pastor for a letter of recommendation, which he willingly gave, only to find out that he wrote horrible things about my character and uncharitable nature, based, I can only assume, on that event since I served regularly at the church and helped quite a lot of people if I'm being honest, which this pastor would have known. So, am I the jerk? I just don't even see how it could really be a question that OP could be the jerk here. They sent somebody to your house unprompted on Christmas Eve and told them to just go inside? I mean, I almost feel bad for Brian because I'm assuming he was just constantly told, oh yeah, no, they're super on board. They want you to be there. It's going to be a great time. Like, what was the end game for this pastor anyways? To try to make this guy's lonely night on Christmas Eve a little bit better? You kind of have to brief the people beforehand. They probably operated the way they did because they knew just about anybody in that situation would have turned Brian down. Either that or you start assuming like paranoid possibilities of like the pastor and Brian secretly wanting to like steal some jewelry and dip or something. Kind of Blue's Clues commented, weird how Jesus stood at the door and knocked and waited for consent, but your pastor apparently had no idea what consent is and felt so entitled to volunteer your time and home and safety. Why the heck didn't he take Brian in? What? OP responded commenting, because apparently his family is more valid than mine since we didn't have kids. Also, we were the same age as Brian, so obviously we were supposed to be besties. Our next story is, am I the jerk for yelling at my partner who keeps buying crappy branded food when I've asked him not to? My partner, male 37, and I, female 38, have 2 young kids and we are well and truly in the trenches with our newborn at the moment. Both of us are like ships in the night, barely have time to think or do anything, and our routine has been shot to bits managing our newborn. He's taken on the responsibility of going to the supermarket more these days as he finds the walks enjoyable and takes our toddler out whilst I'm home with the newborn. I sometimes buy myself a coconut water as a treat as I love this one brand. Recently, he's been buying some coconut water for me because he knows I love it. But when he's at the shops, he grabs the cheapest brand coconut water and I cannot stand the taste of it. And I've asked him calmly several times to not buy that brand and to please spend the extra $1 to buy the other brand one that I really enjoy. So, back note, my husband is the stingiest cheapskate known to man and he's actually admitted to me his money saving isn't normal compared to others. We both have seriously well-paying jobs and are not financially stressed at all. He just loves a bargain and buys the no-name brand everything all the time. He says he just grabs the one mindlessly and doesn't mean to upset me, but he's done it 5 or 6 times now, and the last time I didn't get angry at him, I just got him to really focus and explained my frustrations and for him to please stop buying that brand. It tastes gross, it's not a treat for me, and to please get the other brand that I would occasionally buy, and he was like, yep, of course, and said that he would, like he has every other time, but I thought sort of explaining it more it would sink in. Then today, he brought home the crap weed tasting stuff again, and I just lost it. We had a huge weekend, I'm sick, and a coconut water would have been the nicest treat for me, but bringing home the brand I cannot stand felt like it was the biggest punch in the gut to me. When I saw it, I was literally shook. I just lost it and yelled at him and was like, "What? Did you buy this crap again?" and threw the carton in the bin without even opening it. He was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, I didn't do it on purpose." I then yelled, "What is wrong with you? Like, why do you keep doing this?" And he just walked out of the room, so it ended there. He got really upset with me and said that I'd made him cry by yelling at him and made our toddler upset because he got a bit scared when I yelled. The whole thing felt like a complete setup to me, and I don't know, after asking 5 to 6 times previously, patiently and calmly, how to not get to a point of just cracking up and yelling for him to stop buying that stuff, because it feels like a constant reminder of how much he doesn't care about me after asking him to stop buying it several times. Am I the jerk for yelling? Like, what's going on here? Considering it's happened 5 or 6 times, it has to be something greater going on here. I don't know if it's like a huge internal problem where they just can't justify spending the extra dollar, if they have some kind of like memory thing where they keep confusing the brands or something. The problem is they're not communicating that, and you kind of can't know, and it obviously is going to be frustrating. I mean, bottom line here, if it really is about the money and his inability to spend the extra dollar for the nicer brand, he is wasting way more money by continuously buying the crappy one that nobody wants. Trishana Mirandu commented, "Try telling him that when he buys the brand you don't like, he's wasting money rather than saving it, because from now on, you will look him in the eye and drop it in the bin unopened as soon as he hands it to you. Maybe the idea that his money is going in the garbage will get through." Honestly, it sounds like weaponized incompetence, except he forgot the, "well, I just won't do it then" step, not the jerk. Girly Math Nerd commented, "Yeah, the whole saving money thing makes sense to me, to a point. When the cheap one won't be consumed or enjoyed, then it is better to buy the expensive one less frequently, or just remember that the price difference is 100% going towards a happier partner, while both parents are surviving the toddler and newborn stage of life." Our next story is, would I be the jerk if I don't tell my spouse the latest information I received about his biological parents? My 34-year-old female husband, 40-year-old male, was adopted as an infant. It was an international adoption with limited information regarding the circumstances of his adoption and his birth parents. His mom, adoptive mother, tragically passed away years ago, and he doesn't have a relationship with his adoptive father. When we met, he had no interest in reaching out to his biological parents. He expressed a disdain for his birth mother abandoning him and was quite angry. After his adoptive mom passed away, he started to toy with the idea of reaching out to the adoption agency. For years, he mulled over the idea. He then expressed fear of rejection and stopped talking about it again. He went back and forth on the subject for a few more years. Each time he showed interest, I began learning more about how we could get the information if he did decide he wanted to move forward. Late last year, he finally decided he was ready. I submitted the necessary documentation for him at his request. The agency informed us that due to changes in the adoption processes in his birth country, they may not be able to process his request, and we might have to wait until September of this year to request directly from the government in his home country. We were pretty disappointed, but decided to proceed and see what happened. In April, they reached out again and said they could not fulfill our request. He was upset, and a few days later said he didn't even want to bother trying to search again in September. Today, I received an unexpected email from the agency. They had been able to move forward. His birth mother returned the first letter to sender, a family member received the second letter, and the third letter was hand-delivered to his birth mother in May, and she never reached out. We can assume that she doesn't want to contact him at this point. His birth father, not married to the birth mother and living in a different city, did initially seem open to contact. He exchanged a few text messages with the agency social worker. Ultimately, he decided that he felt bad, but did not wish to continue communication. I know this will hurt him to know, At this moment in time, he believes we gave up on contact. Would I be the jerk if I just don't tell him? I'm torn. I feel like he has the right to know, but I fear what the rejection will do to him. I'm so disappointed and upset. I knew this was a possibility, but I'd hoped that they would at least be willing to exchange a letter or two. OP then went on to post an update at the top of the post, commenting, "Update, I told him last night and all is well. I let him know that there was an update and that he could decide if he wanted the information or not. He ultimately chose to read the email. He was understandably disappointed and hurt by the information. I told him that I'd struggled with whether or not I should tell him. I asked him if he would have felt better if I hadn't told him, and he said he wasn't sure. He wasn't angry with me for considering withholding the information, and he wasn't upset that I told him either. He could see why I struggled. I am glad I left it up to him because I don't think I could or would have been able to keep it away from him anyway. For those of you saying that I withheld this from him by coming here first, he was literally informed 10 minutes after returning home from work. I told him as soon as he was available. Ultimately, I would say in a situation like this, you should definitely give them the option to know. I think it's one of those situations that if it does come out down the road and you did withhold that information, it only serves to really kind of reflect on you badly, hurt them even more. You know, if they especially find out the contents of that combined with the fact that you withheld that from them, is it not almost certain to be compounding in how bad that hurts? Scarlet Not That One commented, "Info, suppose that 2 years from now he decides to try again, and at that time learns what you know now. Will he be thankful or angry or disappointed that you held back the info?" OP responded, commenting, "I don't believe he will try again. Just knowing him and seeing him struggle with this for so many years, he won't be angry and would understand why I didn't tell him. However, I will feel guilty for not telling him anyway. So I'm going to tell him there was an unexpected update and ask him if he wants to see it or not. I'll leave it up to him." Our next story is, am I the jerk for not asking if our child could stay another night at their friends? I, 39-year-old female, was driving my husband, 45-year-old male, home from work today. During the drive, our child called and asked if they could stay another night at their friends, who is also a close longtime family friend's house. We were not on speaker, and I gave the go-ahead with my husband sitting in the seat next to me. When I got off the phone, he called me disrespectful and told me I don't care about him at all since I didn't get his approval before giving our child the okay. I explained that if our child had been staying with his family, my response would have been the exact same, and that if he wanted, I could call back and say no and we could go pick our child up. He said he doesn't know if he wants to be with me anymore and left on foot without another word because we had stopped to get gas. Backstory, we had a birthday party for our child on Saturday, which was a sleepover. There were 6 kids total, including our child and the other child. On Sunday, our child asked if the friend could stay again. I agreed and the friend stayed over after I asked their mom if it was okay, but went home the next Monday afternoon. Yesterday, Tuesday, the mom and I took all of our kids, plus some, to the beach for the day. When the night ended, I allowed our child to stay the night with them this time. At all times, I notified our husband that our child had someone staying over or was staying over at someone else's and received a completely different, agreeable response. More backstory, my husband and I have been married for 16 years, but separated since September 2024 for issues that I don't think are really relatable to this particular moment. I've been staying at my dad's house. He's been living in the home I inherited from a relative. He originally promised to leave, but has not done so. Therefore, I feel that since our child primarily resides with me, except for the rare occasional visit with him, I don't need permission for our child to make and attend social plans if I'm not asking for help in any way, shape, or form in return. Additionally, our children and these other children have grown up together and have had hundreds of sleepovers over the years. But maybe he's right. Am I the jerk? So, considering the extra context, OP's pretty clearly just not the jerk. I mean, as far as parenting goes, they're just not really on that collaborative level. And OP as the mom is not in the wrong to give the go-ahead alone. Gullible Mushroom 17 commented, "He's staying in your home? He had the opportunity to speak up and didn't, and to make a mountain out of this, feels like he was looking for something to use as an excuse to take his feelings out on you. Not the jerk, get your house back and please be safe and aware." OP responded commenting, "Yes. For my and my child's immediate peace and sanity, I left on the agreement that he would leave within 2 weeks. That turned to 3 months and now to 10.5 months. Our next story is, would I be the jerk for telling my boyfriend it's time to go bald? My 23-year-old female boyfriend, 25-year-old male, has been going bald or losing his hair for as long as I've known him, 5 years, and to my understanding, it started maybe a year or two prior to us meeting. In his teens, he had relatively long hair for a guy and often wore it curly or in twists. It was something he really prided himself on, but even now when he shows me old photos, it's clear to me that the hairline receding/tension alopecia probably started sometime around 18 or 19-ish. I met him at 20 when he was already sporting a low fade due to progressing hair loss. Regardless, I've always found him very handsome and constantly reminded him that he will still be handsome even if he decides to cut off the hair he still has left. He refuses, claiming to be too young and that he wants to experiment other hair loss prevention methods, derma rolling daily, minoxidil, maybe even a hair transplant. But unfortunately in his case, I think this may just be genetic. And I'm not sure how to say it in a nice way. His mom even shared to me that when she met his dad, somewhere between 21 to 24 years old, he was already bald himself. To my knowledge, most of the men in his family I've met are bald, and even old photos show most of them without hair. I respect that he wants to continue other means, but each time someone points it out or even comments that he practically looks bald already, specifically when his hair is cut really low, he is clearly mortified, and it breaks my heart to see it sometimes. I want to approach the subject respectfully as I don't really know how it feels to be a man going bald prematurely, but I think in the end he'll save himself a lot of strife if he just cuts it all off now. Would I be the jerk to tell him it's time? Added 1, a lot of people in the comments have mentioned that this is important, so I'll include the reply here. He does ask me often if his current method of masking, hair paint, is sufficient, or if I think it's more obvious on some days versus others. It's not a daunting task, but it is a constant thing that comes up in our conversations almost daily. So it's oftentimes harder to ignore than it just being something that exists but is never mentioned. Edit 2, I've seen a lot of people comparing baldness to obesity, which is like, okay, I guess, but I don't find it to be as taboo as everyone else. Bald is not an insult the same way that being fat isn't. Some people are genetically fat, and that's just a fact. If that was my situation, I would hope somebody would love me enough to tell me to enjoy the quality of life that comes with not stressing over things you can't control. But that's just me. So I think the problem here is he doesn't want to. He wants to try to save his hair. There's a lot of people out there that do. If he wants to start getting the medication for it, if he wants to start getting minoxidil, if he wants to do the derma roller, just as much as OP says, I would hope somebody would love me enough to tell me to enjoy the quality of life that comes with not stressing, I would hope somebody would love me enough to support me when I do want to work on it. When somebody like their partner wants to take up that fight. May not seem worth it to OP, but OP as a partner is choosing to not support them. Sidril commented, "You're the jerk, you already know he doesn't want to. Did he even ask your opinion? Support him to deal with it how he wants to." But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy Am I the Jerk Here story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.